Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from AliDom045 from the Am I the Arsehole Here subreddit and says, am I the arsehole here for not changing my name on DoorDash after getting married? My husband, 30 male, and I, 28 female, got married a little over a year ago. Anyways, I ordered DoorDash for us for lunch yesterday, and when it arrived, he got it from the porch. When he came back to the kitchen, he was visibly upset, and when I asked what was wrong, he asked me why my last initial on the order was still my maiden name. I told him I never really thought about it. He asked me to change it, but I refused and told him he was overreacting because it wasn't that important, as it's only for the dasher to get whatever we ordered from the restaurant, and you don't even have to put your real name. He blew up and wouldn't talk to me for hours. He eventually said if I was ashamed of using his last name, then I should just say so, and without letting me speak, he left to stay at his parents' house. He hasn't responded to any of my texts or calls for the last 24 hours, but I still have his location, and he is indeed at his parents' house. Honestly, at this point, I have no idea what to think. Am I the arsehole here for not changing it when he asked? Or is this the start to something much bigger? We've never had an argument like this and have had a perfect marriage and relationship otherwise. I just feel like I don't know the man I'm married to anymore. Whenever we see stories like this, I always think, because OP said that, this is the first time this has happened and we had a perfect marriage up to this point. I kind of think, has OP really just missed signs in the past? Or is it because now they're married, he feels like he can let that mask slip a little bit? I mean, both things we've seen time and time again in stories like this. But hell yeah, red flag central, right? He's given you the silent treatment, then dramatically ran away to his parents' house. That's not normal married behavior, right? Comes across as controlling and manipulative. The first thing he jumped to is, you must be ashamed of my name. He's either going to be incredibly insecure or just looking for ways to push his control, basically. Both are red flags, right? But alarm speaker says my wife still gets stuff with her old name. She was married prior and then went back to her maiden name, so it's her ex-husband's name. I don't give a fuck. I got her, and she's fucking awesome and fucking hot. Dude needs to grow up and put his little fifis to bed. She kept her maiden name when we married. Again, I got her. Seltzer says, this guy loves his wife. Opie says I needed to read this. I'm just scared for what this means. I don't like turning to Reddit, but this is where I've seen the most emotionally evolved people. Alarm speaker says, really weird that this is cropped up when you say it's completely out of character. Hopefully he chooses to talk to you like a grown-up instead of running to his parents. But maybe for the best. Is there something he's not telling you? Job, cheating, finances? Hard to know, but it's not your job to mother it out of him. Yeah, I find some surprisingly solid advice on here. Lots of bad advice too, but if you're a reasonably sane person, you can discern which is which. Good luck and update us if you feel like it. OP responds saying I'm not sure if there's something he's hiding. He manages most of the finances except the mortgage, since it was my house before we got married. He makes more money than me, so I doubt that's the issue, especially since everything else is working and seems to be getting paid. I definitely will update when I figure more out. This is just the most wild situation I've ever been in, and it's hard when I can't figure out for the life of me why it means so much to him to literally leave for 2 nights already. I don't know when he'll speak to me to see where we're going from here. Laura says, not the arsehole here, and oh my god, this is such childish behavior. Then running home makes it even worse. Does he overreact about much, or is this the first time? This can spell huge issues in the future, or maybe he is just having a bad day. Wish you luck. OP responds saying, we have had a pretty much perfect relationship. I really don't understand what's going on. I really don't think this is a big deal, but I'm torn between the thought that I made it a big deal by refusing and it being a red flag that he cares so much about it. Dumb says, my name on DoorDash is Clammy Bossman. He's being a silly goose. OP says this made me laugh. I needed that. So it was just over half a month later that OP did come in with her update and says, "I'm definitely an idiot, but the best lessons are learned firsthand." A few days after my original post, he came home. His mother had called me. We have always been on fairly good terms, asking him what was going on since he wouldn't tell her. I explained the situation and she told me she was very disappointed in him for starting all this over something so simple, regardless of if I was willing to change it or not. Anyways, he came home and apologized with the most sincere apology I've ever received in my life. Or so I thought. This weekend, his job had a Labor Day party, where all his co-workers and their families were invited over to the boss's house. We don't normally go to these sort of things because our families are usually doing things the same days, but this time we decided to go, since my children were with their dad and our families were out of town. We get there and I'm meeting a lot of new people, but I'm mostly looking forward to meeting Danny, the guy I assumed was his best friend since he's always talking about him. Danny is nowhere to be found until this drop-dead gorgeous woman walks in. Turns out Danny is actually Danny, different spelling, D-A-N-N as opposed to D-A-N-N-Y, short for Danielle. I kept my cool at the omission of her gender, but it all clicked when her and I had a conversation. She is probably one of the most progressive women I've ever met, but not in an aggressive manner. I honestly think I could be really good friends with this woman. She's so poised and genuinely nice. She told me she recently got engaged. The funny thing is, she owns a side business, so she will not be changing her last name. Apparently my husband made a fool of himself to her as well by saying her fiance wasn't a real man, because he's okay with that. She told him off and didn't speak to him for a few days. She said he apologized, get this, before he apologized to me. Anyways, turns out that whole argument was projection of his own inner feelings and the discrepancy between him and Danny. I kept my cool at the party, but in the conversation I had with him later, he admitted to having a crush on her. I was so livid and hurt by this, I kicked him out. I'm going to be calling divorce lawyers today because I'm done and will not spend the rest of my life worrying if he has something going on with one of his co-workers. I'm just thankful that the house was mine before we got married. Dry Principle says when it's something minor that causes a big fuss, it's usually almost always projection that has a bigger meaning behind it. Shake my head, jerk. Please update us as this goes on if you can. Life Duck says kicking him out and moving towards divorce sounds like a strong, self-respecting decision. Holdfast says okay. This plot twist gave me whiplash. You'll be hearing from my attorney. Artistic Ad says yikes, good call. His behavior is a huge red flag. Divorce sounds like the right move. Life Duck says again, the blessing here is that everything came to light early, before you tied up more of your life with his. You're absolutely right. Having the house in your name gives you huge security and power in this process. I think just good on OP in this situation. What made me chuckle though, is this guy's going around telling Danny about how her fiance is not a real man for being cool that, you know, she's kept her maiden name. Yet this guy, during an argument, ran home to his mum. What a Burke. But what do you guys make of this situation? How would you have dealt with it if it was you? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. Our next story comes from Throwaway Girlfriend Phone from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit, and it says, Am I the Arsehole for texting from my girlfriend's phone? My girlfriend was doing some time-sensitive work on her computer and asked me to go through a photo gallery on her phone and send her some images. As I was going through the photos, she got a text from someone that said, Love you princess, good night, with a heart emoji. I understandably got freaked out and started looking at the text history. I didn't need to read a lot before seeing red. My girlfriend has been chatting with this person regularly, mainly about her day. He keeps calling her baby and princess and sending her lots of love and hugs and kisses. I feel shocked. I thought I had a great relationship with my girlfriend. I looked at the name again and suddenly remembered. My girlfriend had mumbled it and something about chocolate in her sleep the other night. I could see this had been going on for a while, and I got really angry, so I sent a message to the guy about how he was scum for calling somebody else's girlfriend baby, and then I deleted the messages and blocked the number. This was an hour ago. I don't feel like I went too far, but now that I've cooled down, I've been wondering and wanting some outside perspective. Top comment on this one from Cup of Cheesecake says, "You're the arsehole. You sure it's a guy? Even if it was, you should have talked to her about it instead of texting back." OK replies that saying, "It sounds like the text I sent my daughter is 26. Princess? Would a love interest call a woman princess? I don't think so." Blind Duke says, "You're the arsehole for not doing what she asked, but for just assuming the worst without talking to her and causing a problem where one might not exist." Navish says, "Lol, waiting for the follow-up where he finds out it was actually the girl's mum. Oh, and you're the arsehole." Rowan Ever says, "Yes, you're the arsehole, for fuck's sake. Stop acting as though your girlfriend is a piece of property and talk to the other human being in your relationship. Here's where you went wrong. Texting the other person, especially from your girlfriend's phone. Abusing the other person rather than talking to the person you think is cheating on you. Blocking the other person on her phone. Hint, you aren't supposed to control the people you love. Deleting the messages to hide your trail of badly thought out destructiveness and toxicity. By the way, you realize that whether or not you talk to her about this, your actions are going to blow up in your face, right? It's not like the other person is going to have 0 other ways to contact her, and they're going to tell her. Bonus arsehole points though, if it turns out to be a family member." Oof. Religiously says, "Do you not think it's odd that she would ask you to get on her phone if she's having an affair? I mean, this is definitely weird, but you need to talk to her. She could be cheating and trying to get caught. She could be dumb, or this could be something else entirely. If it's the latter, you're going to get dumped anyway for this." And of course, I'm absolutely with those comments. I saw "Love You Princess" and I agree with that comment, thinking, really? Would a love interest say something along those lines? Maybe some people do, right? For me, it certainly didn't jump out that way. It immediately screamed family member or something along those lines. The fact that you took the phone, you messaged back as well, deleted the number and blocked them at the same time. Yeah, you're going to be cooked here. But it was only 3 hours later that OP came in with an update, so here you go. So it turned out I fucked up big time. My girlfriend came here as an international student and has relatives from other cultures. It turns out that what I thought was the affair partner's name was actually the word for aunt, her elderly aunt that helped raise her, which is why the messages were so affectionate. Apparently she makes a mean chocolate cake, which my girlfriend had been dreaming about the other night. I thought this was complete bullshit, but my girlfriend made me read through all her messages from the beginning, and I realized she was telling the truth. My girlfriend is pissed. Apparently her aunt has been crying because of the message I sent and because I blocked the number. It took a while to clear the situation up. She cursed me out for 5 minutes and said I'm a total scumbag and it's over, then kicked me out. Thanks a lot, Reddit. Flying Duke says to that, "You're thanking us for your fuck up, or for telling you that you fucked up." Little replies that saying he's blaming us to Flying says, "Fits his MO. If I fail, blame the internet. It led me astray." Rowan Ever says, "I just read the edit and I'm laughing. Dude, please learn multiple lessons from this huge tantrum and its very fair consequences. Women aren't possessions. Controlling other people by not letting them see message sent to them or by blocking contacts on their phone is wrong. Anger is a valid emotion, but letting it out in an uncontrolled way is destructive and bad, and you're 100% liable for the consequences. If you have an issue in a relationship, deal with it in the relationship. Noise Proves Nothing says your update gave another reason, you're the arsehole. She's from a different culture and acceptable terms of endearment and interactions vary by culture, and region and family and individual. You didn't bother to check anything with her. At this point, all you can do is apologize unreservedly for being a suspicious, interfering arsehole who treated her like property and not an equal partner in the relationship, and promise to do better. If you're normally a decent person, you'll learn from this, and I hope it works out in the end." Rowan Ever says, "Yeah, modern life as we're supposed to do is appallingly lacking in intimacy and endearments. A lot of adults have developed close-knit friend groups that we think of like chosen family. Expressions of love and pet names are often part of that. Hell, my partner calls most friends sweetie, and I'm 100% chill with that." Inevitable says, "Lol, thanks a lot, Reddit." Did we look at your girlfriend's private messages? Nope, you're the arsehole. Fuzzy says, and quotes, thanks a lot Reddit again, and says, lol, you're the one who fucked yourself over. Don't be blaming Reddit for your mistakes. Take a lesson from this. Don't freaking jump to conclusions and act if you don't have any facts to back you up. The thanks a lot Reddit did make me chuckle at the end of this. It's just like, all I could picture is like the Wojak meme of the guy pointing backwards with his mouth open, kind of like OP pointing back at Reddit saying, it's their fault. They told me to do this. My mind is a wild place. But what do you guys make of this situation? How would you have handled that if that was you and you saw those messages come through? Would you automatically assume there was something going on, or are you with the majority of the comments just saying, you know, it sounded like family to begin with? But let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from Lookout Lockout from the Am I Overreacting subreddit, and says, am I overreacting for wanting to see a therapist after wife changed the locks because I went to a baby shower? Wife and I are both 30. Tried to have our first baby for 4 failed cycles and decided to take a break for a few cycles because we were taking it pretty hard. It's been 3 months since we tried. Meanwhile, my little sister is pregnant with her first baby, which I'm very excited for. My wife was too at first. Opie then adds some text messages between them, but said first slide is me asking why she RSVP'd no to the baby shower 2 hours away without talking to me first. After talking that night, she said I could go to the shower and seemed supportive, said she was just in her feelings. The text said, are we busy on the 24th? Something I forgot. She said, I don't think so, why? Opie said, baby shower. They said you RSVP'd, we couldn't make it. She said, oh yeah, I don't want to go, not feeling up to baby things. He said, I understand it stings. I'd like to go, support my sister for her first baby. I can go on our behalf. She said, it'd hurt my feelings if you went without me though. She has everything and everyone she needs. I need you. Opie says, let's talk when I get home. Opie then says, second slide is the week of the shower. We had therapy the next day after wife was once again supportive of me going. Other than saying she had missed me, I went up a day early to spend more time with family. Nothing seemed off. And the text messages said, wife started off, I've been thinking about it and I don't think it's fair for you to go. I'm still grieving, even if you're not. Going to this is like twisting the knife. You're twisting the knife. Opie says, I'm sorry, Dovely. He calls her Dovely, just so you know. I'm still torn up too. I can't wait to raise kids with you, but we've both always wanted to be an aunt and uncle, and now we get to be. I want to share a little joy while things are tough. He said, you're literally choosing another pregnant woman over me. You can't understand how hurtful that is. Opie replied saying, my sister. Let's table this until I get home or maybe after therapy tomorrow. Love you. Would it help to start trying again? I feel like not trying isn't. We both were happier when we were. She simply replied, no. Opie then says the third slide was a bomb drop I got at the shower. She said, what kind of man can't stay by his woman's side when her world is crashing down? It's making me sick. You're off celebrating when I'm at the lowest I've ever been. This is like emotional cheating almost. We're going to have to make up for this betrayal for a while because I'm hurting thanks to you. Opie says, Dovely, I love you. I know you want our family to grow. I do too, and I understand the heartbreak. It's kind of hurting my heart to be here too, and I'm also having some gladness which we haven't gotten to have for a bit. This is partly for me, but also for my sister and our future nephew. Remember, we want to be his favorite aunt and uncle. We need to talk about this more in therapy. Can't keep brushing it off. Grief is supposed to change over time, and I don't think it's changing for you after months. She replies, probably won't change until you give me a baby. He replies, okay. Call you on the way home. Get yourself some curry. DD credit. Opie then explains about the fourth set of text messages saying, fourth slide, I still don't know what the fuck happened, but she changed the locks to our house. We had a big argument when she came back to let me in, and she insisted this was worse than me cheating on her. It's been almost a week since then. We've been to therapy again. She saw a doctor. Neither of them seemed too concerned because she's acting normal now, and even wants to try to conceive again. I told her I scheduled a first session with my own therapist because I'm hurt, and I don't want to talk to her much less try for a baby until I work through this myself. She said I'm overreacting because she made it right immediately, came home and let me in the house, and hasn't brought up how she feels about the shower since that night, except for in therapy. Am I overreacting? And the fourth set of text messages said, Opie started off saying ring ring, headed back. Are you at your mum's? She said yes, we're at dinner. Opie replied saying pick up now. I need to know why I'm locked out. Head home or I'm kicking in the back door. She replied, I already told you, you betrayed me. You don't get to just come home willy-nippy like nothing happened. Your bag is already packed. Go stay at a hotel for the night or something. Opie replied saying, what the fuck? I love you, but what the fuck? Come home now and you're going to the damn doctor tomorrow. So the top commenter on this one says, so you guys tried to conceive for 4 months, took a break for 3, and then she locked you out the house for not skipping a super special life moment with your own sister after you guys had talked about it a bunch. Unless there's more to this story, you are not overreacting, and I would want to understand from a therapist and doctor why they aren't concerned with such erratic behavior. That isn't to say there can't be some explanation or that you shouldn't give her time to work through her feelings, but if she's coming out of this with a sense that she didn't do anything wrong here, that feels like the wrong takeaway. Support, validation, and respect are two-way streets, and in those text exchanges, I really only see one of you trying to understand and support the other one. Opie says I appreciate this because no one else is seeing anything wrong here, makes me feel insane. My mum called on her in a little bit, but the doctor and therapist said they'd be concerned if she locked me out and kept me locked out. Since she came right home and let me in, it was a momentary lapse of judgment. Kind Crow says, info. So you were just trying to conceive naturally and stopped after only 4 months. I don't get it. Why? It takes most people much longer than 4 months to conceive a child. It's completely normal for couples your age to take as long as a year to conceive if they're having sex every 2 or 3 days at least. If she is that desperate to conceive, why did she stop doing the one thing that will make her conceive? Mysterious Crow says, I was thinking the same thing. Yes, it can be disappointing when you aren't successful conceiving right away, but it is normal that it could take up to a year. A reaction to you wanting to go to your sister's shower is way over the top and not remotely the behavior of someone in their right mind. It would be different if you had struggled through years of fertility issues or she had just had a miscarriage. Then I could understand her being upset and having a hard time celebrating your sister. That said, changing the locks is next level vindictive and crazy based on the info you have given. Pretend History says, I agree with this comment. 4 months is not a lot of time for trying to conceive. It took my husband and I almost about 1.5 years to finally get pregnant with our first child. I've had to have a tubal flushing procedure, which is a non-invasive procedure to flush out the fallopian tubes. I got pregnant a little over a month later. Sometimes women who took birth control prior to TTC have issues with the fallopian tubes being clogged. The success rate with this procedure is very high. I can truly understand now if you're questioning having kids with her. She seems extremely irrational and a little unhinged over something as simple as supporting your family. Loose Bandicoot says, I read the messages before reading the caption and assumed that she must have just been through something incredibly traumatic like a late-stage miscarriage. To find that the trigger was not conceiving naturally quickly enough blew my mind. Someone's overreacting here, and it's not him. Plastic Orchid says, Dovely? Questioning the name, and Opie says, she loves doves and she's lovely, so I call her Dovely when she's down or we're having a hard time. Genlag replies saying, yeah, she sounds so lovely. And again, like the comment said in this, 4 months of trying to conceive is typically normal as far as I'm aware. I think I read once, and I might be completely wrong here, so don't listen to me really, but I think in the UK at least, it obviously could be different in other places, that doctors consider it a potential issue a year and will start investigating things after a year or something along those lines. Again, might be totally wrong there. There was in this story where it said it was like a momentary lapse of judgment or something along those lines, and I was thinking, well, no, it's not. Changing the locks is a sequence of events. It's, unless she's handy herself, she had to get in contact with someone to come out and change those locks. That's a process. And then you got everything else around it, like comparing the attending family events to see a sister is cheating. So, there's that wild thought process there. It's an emotional abuse. And And bringing a baby into this at this moment in time it just comes across as an absolute disaster to me. But OP comes back into the post with an update and says, first, I'll answer a few frequently asked questions from the first post. 1, she does have a diagnosis of panic disorder, hence why she's in therapy and has a psychiatrist. But she hasn't had a panic attack in quite some time. 2, no, we did not show a therapist the texts yet. I joined a therapy appointment for the first 15 to 20 minutes and there were only 45-minute sessions, so not much time to cover everything. Her therapist, per my wife, said she was in the wrong, but she didn't think there was anything emergent because she came home and fixed the problem right away. Wild, man. Okay, the update. Knowing my wife, she doesn't always hear how she comes off. I started by sitting her down and reading our text conversations out loud to her, and let her sit with it for a bit. After about 5 minutes of silence, she started crying and said she was a monster and didn't recognize herself. I asked her why that might be, and she offered some concerns that I think are genuine. 1, she works in an office and she said 4 of her co-workers are pregnant. 2 have started maternity leave and for the last couple of weeks she's been covering a lot for both of them. So she's been very stressed. I knew she'd been working longer hours but didn't know how much it was stressing her out. 2, her parents are extremely pushy about her having kids. They've made comments to us before which I kind of wrote off as normal excited first-time grandparents to be, but she showed me texts from both of them in their family group chat in the last few months and they've been sending her quite a few articles about fertility, parenting, etc. One text even said, "Are you actually trying or are you just teasing us?" Which clearly hurt her. She shared this with her therapist several sessions ago but never mentioned it to me. 3, she said she's afraid she's projecting her parents' frustration with her onto me and subconsciously felt like I'll leave her if we don't have kids soon. So she might have been lashing out to push me away before I could push her away, and she acknowledged that's wrong of her. We've agreed to take a few more months off of trying. 1, so her work stress can eventually decrease, and 2, so we as a team can set some boundaries with her parents. My wife has agreed she's not going to give them trying updates, and we'll just tell them whenever we're ready to announce a pregnancy someday. I asked her if she realized she went psycho and she said yes, saying she broke and doesn't even remember making some of the decisions she made. But she's very remorseful and I believe her. I'm booking with my own therapist and she's going to continue with hers. Eventually we may add a couples therapist, but time and money aren't limited. She did resume working on the baby blanket she started for our incoming nephew, which she hasn't touched in months. I've kinda left her alone and noticed she cries every so often. I give her a hug when I notice. She cooked dinner for the first time in a while. We've been so busy, we've been surviving on frozen meals and DoorDash. This update will probably disappoint those who wanted us to divorce immediately, but it is what it is. The dust is still settling, but I feel like some mending is occurring. Itis says, I'm glad to hear this update. When I read the first post, it seemed like a situation that could be handled if your wife was willing to accept the fact that she was clearly in the wrong, and you come across as someone who would know when that point has passed. I mentioned in a comment that the stress she's putting on herself probably made push the reaction, and it makes sense it was coming from an external source too. Not gonna lie, it seemed like a very silly and short-sighted idea to get pregnant when so many co-workers are and she's covering part of their work. I can't believe she actually wanted to be pregnant while doing extra work already. It leads me to believe even more that the research going into this process was a little lacking in general, and again making sense if it was driven by external pressure from parents. Another commenter says, yeah, the timing really doesn't add up. Taking extra work because co-workers are pregnant, then deciding to get pregnant yourself? That's just asking for trouble. Sounds like the parents were definitely pushing for this and she wasn't thinking it through properly. Good thing you recognized when enough was enough. Critical Base says, 2, her parents need to fuck off. What horrid shitheads. Opie says, yeah, I always say my wife is tiny but mighty, except when it comes to them. I have a feeling that when we sit down with them, I'll be the one laying down the law, which I'm prepared to do, because that pissed me the hell off. She might be a monster right now, but that's my monster, damn it. It's not a little joke, they're implying that she's lying to them, which probably made her feel even more like she owed them information. They're applying pressure that she's not doing something right to get pregnant. Catgirl says, does she understand that 4 months of trying isn't very long at all? And does this taking a break from trying mean no sex? You guys need to have a healthy sex life for general happiness, but also to make babies. Babies just happen all the time from regular intimacy and not just from trying. Quoting, she might be a monster now, but that's my monster, damn it, then says, this is so endearing, lol. I wish you both the best. Opie says we haven't had time for spontaneous sex lately, but it's not something we're avoiding. Just need to break from all the tracking and baby dancing, lol. Kimmy Sharma says, honestly, she should not even consider having kids yet. Her mental health is the most important. Opie says she seemed genuinely surprised when I said I still love her, even if for some reason we never had kids. I think we've both been so passionate about being parents someday that we never explored what not having biological kids would look like. A total mess, says to the OP. Okay, I know this seems like progress, but what she did wasn't something small or simple. She changed the fucking locks on your own home. You can't even be sure you'll have forever access to your home anymore because your wife went as far as to change the locks on you. If my partner locked me out of my home over me doing something we not only agreed on but was completely normal and reasonable, I would not be moving back in until I could trust them again. And this does not read like she's even realized she's broken your trust. You're completely sweeping this major break of trust by excusing her behavior away. What if she does this to any kids you might end up having? If your wife can do this to you, what makes you sure she won't do it to your child? Imagine if your child does something completely innocent that you all agreed on, only to come home and find themselves locked out because their mum got stressed out at work. Your child, standing outside their home, completely confused why their key no longer works, panicked that something might be wrong, unable to go home, unable to trust the safety and security of having a home to go to anymore. Don't do this to any kid you might have. They will not forget the confusion, anxiety, and panic of being locked out of their own home by their mother. Opie says fair, but just remember, you know her from one Reddit post. I've known her very, very well for 10 years, married for 2. I've never seen her act like this. Never done says, seems like making a baby quote would be some kind of torture for her. Opie says I think she feels bad for not going and wants to get back to being excited for our nephew. I found OP's response to that longer comment about the child standing outside being confused, etc., potential child, etc., if mum did lock him out, and OP's reply was saying, you only know her from one Reddit post, I've known her very well for 10 years, but then at the end of it says, I've never seen her act like this, and that's even more reason to be worried, right? And for me, that felt just still equally concerning at the end. And I can see why some of the comments were saying, it just feels like it's being brushed under the rug, because I still look at the locks and how that is a process in itself. I don't believe that it was just, you're blanked out and happened. It was a process of this happening. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being here. And hopefully I'm going to see you bloody cheeky so-and-so, in the next one. Take care and much love.